All right, this is episode 94. I said 95 last time, but I was wrong. Of the Theater School Rejects podcast. Joined once again by Ryan.
Theater school rejects, not math school rejects, motherfuckers.
That's right.
Not counting rejects, motherfuckers.
Joined by Ryan at Crash Ryan on Twitter with his disdain for counting.
Numbers suck. No.
He's a playwright.
Right.
Very few of them take calculus.
Right. I took logic because I thought that was a transferable math class. It is not. I was like,
All right.
it's like a math and a philosophy class. Win-win. No, it's just a kind of waste of time where I learned about A's and B's.
Although I took a class, number theory, which
Right.
was basically just formal logic, or at least, with
Right.
with math,
Yeah.
and it was all about logical proofs, and it was all really just logic and formal logic, but like to prove mathematical things.
Right.
I enjoyed that class.
Actually, I don't mind math. Like I hated math. That's the only time it's been a cultural pressure thing.
Yeah.
Where kids were expected to hate school or expected to hate math. And so I just hated math, but when I got out of school, I was trying to articulate to myself, why did I hate math? And I was like, I don't. There's nothing wrong with math. It's fine. It's problem solving. It's fucking nothing wrong with numbers, and statistics was kind of cool. I guess I could have learned other times of math. I used algebra once to figure out my pay rate.
Well, a minute in and we bashed math, and then came around to we actually like math.
Yeah, math is fine. We need to end the STEM humanities war and take on the business department.
Well, I was a philosophy major, but I took up to Calc 2 while I was in college.
All right, so I can ask you this. What the fuck does calculus do?
All right, well, it measures the area under a curve. That's literally what it does.
Okay. That makes sense, actually.
No, but here's a problem. So we're gonna talk
Because
about
I
this.
thought that would have been geometry.
This is the calculus podcast.
Okay.
No, so rectangle.
Right.
How do you do the area? Length
Right.
times width. Pretty
Right.
easy, right?
Yes.
Circle, pi r squared, whatever, right? Now you got a curve.
Really?
Find the area.
I see. So you need a whole new branch of math for that. That makes sense, I guess.
Well, obviously it's been applied to more than that.
Right.
And so the idea was, okay, well, how do you get there? And then, we could make a rectangle under each section of the curve. And what if there was an infinite number of rectangles?
All right.
It says we have limits. Basically, you're approaching infinity by trying to take these very, very tiny slices, and then what happens, when we have this infinite number, and then we're saying, instead of measuring a curve, we're measuring an infinite number of rectangles.
So is calculus the math for programmers then? Because that seems like what pixel shit does and stuff.
Well, linear algebra is a very direct transformation was how they did Doom.
Okay.
Because linear algebra lets you map out math onto a higher number of dimensions or lower number of dimensions. So they wrote out a 3D thing and used linear algebra to basically take a mass derivative. I'm using the term wrongly, but basically using a calculus type function to take this entire 3D math and map into 2D space.
Gotcha.
And I know that because my linear algebra told me. But he was also my Calc 3 teacher, so.
I took statistics, and that was all I was required to take for math, and I stopped.
Well, I took calc-based statistics, so
Damn.
Okay. At a certain point in my life, they needed math teachers, and I already had my bachelor's in philosophy, and like I said, I've been up to Calc 2, and I was jobless.
Yeah.
And I already had back surgery at this point, so my options for careers did not involve any heavy lifting. So I was like, oh, they need math teachers, and I'm like, and there's all you needed was 16 units of basically advanced math.
Huh.
And I'm like, and a couple of other things on the teaching credential, but basically it's an emergency credential if you just had the math. And I'm like, all right, well, I like math. There's an excuse to take Calc 3 and linear algebra. So I went to Cal State Long Beach and took post-bachelor classes.
Huh.
And that's a lot. Man, this podcast is gonna suck.
We were going to talk about that maybe date I was sitting next to, but instead we
had the calculus real fast.
We both threw shade at math and then went, no, math is fun.
Anyway, so the money at this time was extremely limited. So I'm taking Calc 3, right?
Right.
And my professor comes in and says, well, in order to ask, what book should we get? He goes, any fucking book. Calculus hasn't changed in 100 years. Pick whatever book you want. He didn't say fucking because he was a
Right.
professor, but he's like any book. And he totally was just a mad hippie looking dude,
Right.
and he became my favorite professor ever. And he was so sharp. Like a lot of teachers like need you to have a certain book so they can like look at the answers and stuff.
Right.
You know, he's like, just any book. I'll teach you what book you got.
It's all gonna be the same fucking formula.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the key thing: is that everything else, which is like limits and derivatives and integers,
Right.
all comes out of the idea of how do you basically describe a curve as a number of rectangles.
I had a buddy, actually the guy Murphy.
Wait, hold on a second. How about the fact that you asked the question that you've been asking forever, and I just answered it?
I like that.
That's like the theme of your fucking play. That's your play.
Yeah, that was in the 90s. I've come to terms with like finding out things by asking people.
Well, no, I never thought. Well, I didn't think that was you being angry about it. I thought it was your character,
Right.
but it's still the theme of your play.
Yeah. The guy in Murfreesboro, actually, he was a materials engineer major at Cal Poly, and he was frustrated during a break once, and we were kind of like trying to, because he was the one that was actually doing shit. The rest of us were like just flopping around, and he goes like, we had a pair of fuzzy dice for some reason, you know, hanging in the mirror.
Yeah.
And he goes, my life is this, and he flung it in the air so it would spin around and then drop. He goes, I describe this mathematically. Like, that's cool. None of us can do that. We spent the rest of the night trying to throw the dice like he did. It was actually really good.
Wait, how do you throw the dice?
He grabbed one and he swung it, and so it actually came down in this perfect spinning arc together, whereas every time we threw it, they were like jumbled around and shit.
Interesting talent.
Yeah. He completely ignored the point and the cry for help that Ted was trying to make, but, you know.
We can't help you with that, but we can work on this dice throwing thing. You gotta. We have a certain skill set.
And apparently, empathy and reading the room isn't one of them.
Well, I was thinking more like you read it, but what were you gonna do?
Right.
We don't have the life skills, wisdom, or psychological training to talk you down.
Like, holy shit, we thought you had it figured out. We were gonna ask you. Damn. Let's throw these dice.
Wow. That's the worst medical help advice since I called the VA hospital and said to their voicemail, because they had a mental health voicemail,
Right.
I'm thinking about killing myself, and a month and a half later they called me back. Are you okay? What's it to you?
It's sort of a moot point by now, isn't it? I either bid and they're done, or I'm fucking working it on my own.
That's what really happened. That's a true story.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Imagine if we spent as much fucking with you guys back into the system as we did fucking training.
Oh, well, you know, but we're no good to them now. The longer we live, the more we're draining their resources. They can't use us to acquire resources from foreign countries anymore. They have expended our use.
But every once in a while, we'll use you as a cudgel to like beat up a liberal about something. So.
Oh yeah, well that's fucking Republican. We love veterans. You don't love fucking veterans. Traditionally, you cut the VA benefits all the time.
Right.
Yeah. You don't. You love the military.
Right.
And by love the military, you mean you want to use it. It was like, but what if people die?
Fucking play video games for fuck's sake. The military's gonna be as nuts as you want in a video game. It's great.
Oh wait, hold on.
That's they don't enjoy that.
We really should. No one dies. Well, the people.
Well, I don't think they. Well, no, but they don't get anything out of it.
Right.
You don't acquire any resources by playing video games. I mean, like, you know, little people do, because you can trade your gold you acquire in the game for money.
Right.
But like, you can't go and take another country's oil or gold or that country.
If you play EVE Online, you can get pretty close, I guess. I understand. I haven't played EVE Online. I just read about giant weird things that happen on EVE Online.
I don't think you can take actual countries by playing a video game.
No, just take virtual territory.
No, that's not good for them. No, they actually want the money and the country.
If I can't fuck over brown people, I'm not in at all. Well, that was a good time for me to say that out loud.
Yeah, it was.
They weren't paying attention.
He meant it ironically. I mean,
Whoever
seriously.
says that like straight up, they never say it out loud.
They do. Trump does.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking idiot.
Yes, but he won. Apparently, saying it aloud is a huge turn on for a small chunk of the population.
Well, not in this state though.
I've seen a lot of Trump supporters, including one black dude.
Weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
Actually, like once you get into the weeds in like California, that's where all the Trump stickers and signs show up.
Oh yeah. Well,
do you think they're from NASA or they just visited together today?
I want to ask.
Kind of do.
Excuse me, are you guys from NASA? Do you work for NASA? Okay.
Infinitely less interesting.
But we asked because in this podcast
Yeah.
we find out things.
I did that. There was a lady. I think I told this already. I was on a road trip, and we were going down Highway 1, and you come in and out of the cliffs and stuff. And we saw this lady like holding what looked like a roof antenna in her hand. And I saw that, and I turned to my girlfriend and was like, "We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop and find out what that's all about. 'Cause I have to know why this woman's holding an old school TV antenna in her hand."
I would do the same. I would want to know.
Turns out, she goes, a condor went missing, and she was trying to find, she went to the point where she had the least amount of interference and she could hear the furthest.
I'm pretty sure you told me this story before
Yeah.
because I remember finding a condor,
Yeah.
like finding Nemo.
Yeah, she's trying to find a condor. Like, oh, if you see him, we'll tell him you look for him.
Only it might kill you.
Well, condors are carrion eaters. Someone else has to kill you first.
No, that just means they eat carrion. It doesn't mean that if you threatened it, it couldn't fucking break your ass with a fucking wingspan.
I mean, it could get mad at you, but like,
It's not gonna kill you for food.
like technically speaking, everyone's a carrion eater because they kill it before they don't eat it alive.
Something like, well, I think tigers would just take a bite out of it, whether it's half living, alive, dead, don't
Well, they're
care.
breaking the neck, then they'll eat it later.
Well, anyway, the point is that, like,
I wouldn't fuck with a condor, but I don't think a condor is like out for me or anything.
no, it's not out for you, but you know,
Not like a fucking peacock. Fuck peacock.
parrots don't eat meat, but they can fucking cut with a beak and cut your thumb off or your finger off if they bite it.
Right.
And a parrot's a lot smaller than a fucking condor. That's what you learn by listening to this podcast. Parrots are smaller than condors.
It's the hard truths of theater school rejects.
Well, yeah, that's because there's a condor at the zoo, and I was talking about like
Condor at the zoo?
yeah, I got pics at the LA Zoo.
Really?
Yeah,
Now? Is it still there?
yeah.
Damn. Kind of want to go see that.
It's got like a 12-foot wingspan. It's huge.
Yeah, they're enormous.
Yeah, and I was telling you about it. Like, oh, I have a condor story.
Okay.
No, you did. You're like,
Oh,
we were
yeah.
talking about it one time. You're like, oh, actually, I know about it. But you know, we have a lot of conversations. They blur together. Anyway, what are we at? We're 13 minutes. Any just last wisdom to impart to our listeners, our 5s or 3s of listeners?
Last wisdom. I don't know if I imparted any first wisdoms.
Well, there was, never mind. Anyway, this has been Theater School Rejects. We apparently have nothing to offer you except that calculus is pretty good, and Ryan says he doesn't dislike math anymore.
Right.